Well, hello everyone, and welcome to For the Love of Animals, a presentation of Pinellas County Animal Services and Inspiration 1110 AM. I'm your host, Len Szynski from the Pinellas County Communications Department. For the Love of Animals is a celebration of our connection and commitment to all things animal-related in the Tampa Bay area. And during the next hour, we'll be sharing with you information about the animals we love and the services and programs provided by Pinellas County Animal Services. First up, they are called rescue groups, several nonprofit agencies in Pinellas County that are our valued community partners in providing for the needs of pets and pet lovers in the Pinellas County community. And with me today to share stories about animal rescue groups in Pinellas County is Pinellas County Animal Control Officer Tyson Utes. Tyson, welcome to the program.
And hello, Len.
Hello. You know, Tyson has been a familiar face here in the communications department talking about all things animal related. And certainly he's going to be a familiar voice to listeners of For the Love of Animals in the upcoming weeks and months to come as well. But before we get started, Tyson, I wanted to talk about, this is a Saturday, July 6th. We're right in the middle of the 4th of July weekend, and we've got some big news to share with people about tomorrow, a special Sunday sale going on at Pinellas County Animal Services. Now, normally the agency is not open on Sunday.
Correct. Not open at all on Sunday. This
but
is the first.
We've got a special Sunday sale that's going to be open for adoptions only from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and we want to remind people that the prices are slashed.
Prices have been slashed dramatically. And what better way?
Here we go. Cats are $7 each. Small dogs, $21. Medium dogs, $14. And large dogs are $7. And it sounds like you're pushing the large dogs.
We are. We have so many large dogs. So many of them come into the shelter because as people move into the region or the area, condos and apartments and mobile home parks have size restrictions. And so these larger animals get turned in to the shelter. So as people are considering their vacations, if it's going to be a staycation, what better way to remember that vacation forever than to adopt your best friend?
Okay, so the 4th of July weekend, let's get some independence going for some of these dogs at the shelter. And Super Sale Sunday is the time to visit Pinellas County Animal Services from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And Tyson, where's the facility located?
The street address, it's on Ulmerton Road. It's 12450 Ulmerton Road. If you're using your GPS in your car, the zip code is 33774. And it will be on the south side of the street where Ulmerton begins to curve and turn into Walsingham.
And we hope to see a lot of people out there on Sunday.
We hope
so. A great time to take home a new pet. Okay, Tyson, now, talking about animal rescue groups, by definition, what is an animal rescue group?
Well, rescues, for us, we consider the definition to be a organization or a facility that's able to take animals that we were not able to offer to the general public for adoptions because they have a need more specific or specialized than what we're able to provide for them. So the rescues are filling in the gap for animals that may be euthanized otherwise if they don't step up to be able to help us out. And this is fantastic because it's been one of the largest growth areas in the shelter is through rescues because we worked really hard to increase the number of rescues that we're working with.
Now, they are valuable community partners. Everybody knows, perhaps by now, that Pinellas County Animal Services is the government-operated facility in Pinellas County, but we certainly can't do it all, and we rely heavily on our community partners to fill in the gaps, and certainly these animal rescue groups do such a fine job of filling those gaps. Who are some of the major players here now?
Well, we have rescues, and then we have some of our partners as well. Some of the brick-and-mortar facilities like Humane Society or SPCA, Pet Pal Rescue, or others, those have a specific set-in-stone location, and they come out. They help us tremendously, especially when we're full. They can take some of our overflow to help us out because we're an open admission shelter. We have to take everything. The rescues... Well, more specifically, the rescues, they take in a lot of animals that fit what they work with, either a certain breed, certain size.
And I was going to mention that. I know that some of them do specialize in one breed or another. So how does that work when they just focus on that one kind of dog?
Well, the rescues will be kind of a agglomeration or a conglomeration of fosters and other homes. So you have multiple locations and addresses. Some of these fosters can be out of the county, and then there's many of them. There are rescues that work with specific breeds, say Cavalier King Charles Spaniel Rescue. It's a very specific breed that they work with. There are other rescues like Floridal Retriever Rescue. They work with retrievers. They can be mixes. to small breeds. There's even a senior pet connection. The only animals they work with are senior dogs and senior animals that they can place into adoptions.
So these organizations then that specialize in the single breeds tend to be a little smaller maybe? The volume tends to be a little smaller? They can specialize in these dogs a little bit more?
Exactly right. They can specialize in their area of expertise. And that way we can get animals that we might not have placed for adoptions in the past into a rescue that's able to work with them or rehabilitate them or treat them. So that they can go into a good home.
Now, animal rescue carries with it a lot of images, of dogs rescued from buildings on fire, cats stuck in debris or maybe stuck in sewer pipes or what have you. There was a heartwarming story on the news after the Oklahoma tornadoes a couple of months ago of a little dog emerging from a pile of rubble during a television interview with one of the survivors. Does that happen here in Pinellas County? Do these organizations find these animals that have been injured or somehow traumatized by events in their environment?
They do, and knock on wood, we haven't had any real tornadoes here in our area to cause dogs to come out of the rubble when people are being questioned. But we do have any number of reasons. Some spectacular, some not so much. A resident might move here to retire and pass away. Normal. As you get older, you enjoy your life.
And I'm sure it occurs frequently.
And so then we receive their animals, and those animals then, if they're older animals, can go through a rescue. We also have had a good number of people that have moved to the area, maybe relocated by the military, and their animals had to come in here because the base housing that they were located wouldn't allow the pet, or they had to go overseas and the animal had to come in. We just recently had a very, very large Great Dane come into the shelter, and I've seen large Great Danes before. This one was 187 pounds.
Oh my goodness!
The biggest dog I've ever seen in my life. He could have come with a saddle, and I wouldn't have known the difference. And he was given up, his owner, unfortunately.
Now, are they resilient, these dogs? Will they bounce back, or do they need some sort of a rehabilitation before they're adoptable? In other words, if a dog spends most of his life, or let's say all of his life, he's an older dog with one particular owner, is he going to be able to bounce back and be happy with a new owner?
Well, that is a great question, and that was going to be dictated more by the individual dog. Some people do very well in moving to other regions, other culture shocks, other cultures, and some dogs do as well. You will find dogs that take a little longer, and some of those have to go to rescue. We'll have dogs that come into our shelter that are so abysmally terrified because they hear that kennel environment, noise, strange people. And this is a dog that has been in, say the stereotypical little old lady's house that they've never had interaction with others. So this is an animal that's going to require a rescue to really heavily invest time, not medicine, just time, to take this animal and help it be more socialized so it is more adoptable. So we see those very frequently. There are animals that bond so tightly to their owners that when they are given up, whether it's a death in the family, a change in circumstances and finances, there's a lot of foreclosures that have gone on and people have lost their animals, that those animals, sometimes it takes a few extra steps, and that's where the rescues come in and stand in that gap and take care of it.
But I would imagine if you give love, you get love with any sort of animal.
Almost always.
Now, what about some of the injured animals or traumatized animals that aren't cats and dogs? Birds, turtles, dolphins, perhaps? I know we have a lot of organizations in Pinellas County that take care of those animals.
There are. And while those animals are in need of rescue, we primarily work with dogs and cats. So we will give people contact information for places like our partners at SPCA do take in some native wildlife to help rehabilitate. There is the Clearwater Aquarium, and they work with a lot of the sea life, and we've all
certainly knew one very famous dolphin that they took in now is world famous, and matter of fact, they're making a sequel movie of Winter the Dolphin.
That is fantastic, and that they take dolphins, mammals, turtles.
Do our animal rescue organizations work with its communities outside the area? I mean, if Miami has a catastrophe, say if there's a big hurricane, displaces a lot of animals, will they step in and render some mutual aid down there?
Yes, there's the disaster area response team, and many of the rescues, fosters, and volunteers work with us as we have fosters and volunteers and our employees, and we all fall under FEMA. And if FEMA calls and says we need a team, then we assemble and send.
Well, thank goodness for our community partners.
Oh, yes. We couldn't do it without them.
Thank you, Tyson, very, very much. I'd like to thank my guest on this part of the program, Tyson Utes, Animal Control Officer for Pinellas County Animal Services. And we would encourage our listeners, if you have any comments or questions on anything we've talked about on this program, send us an email, animals@pinellascounty.org, and we'll share your concerns on a future edition of For the Love of Animals. Does your pet get enough exercise? Well, coming up after the break, Dr. Caroline from Pinellas County Animal Services tells us how having a four-legged friend as a workout partner can be quite beneficial. Stay with us. And we're back. Welcome back to For the Love of Animals, a presentation of Pinellas County Animal Services and Inspiration 1110 AM. I'm Len Szynski with the Pinellas County Communications Department. Does your dog get enough exercise? Well, not if all he does is sleep and eat all day, and chasing after squirrels really doesn't count. And yet, the right amount of exercise can mean a healthier, better-looking, better-behaved animal. With me today to share some advice on the subject is Dr. Caroline, Director of Veterinary Services for Pinellas County Animal Services. Dr. Caroline, how are you today?
I'm well. How are you, Len?
Did you work out this morning?
I did.
Before you came to the program?
I did. I went running.
Well, good. Because we're going to talk about exercise for our pets, our dogs and cats this time around.
What a great topic.
Most dogs seem to love to run and jump and play. They kind of do that naturally, but do they get enough exercise? Is that going to be enough exercise for them?
Well, just like with us, unless we make a conscious effort to exercise our dogs, they're not going to be getting as much exercise as they really should be getting. And we see a lot of obesity in our dogs and cats, just like we see a lot of obesity in people. And a lot of that, part of it's due to diet, but a lot of it's due to decreased activity.
They say that dogs resemble their owners.
Sometimes that is true.
So I would imagine if the owners are couch potatoes, that dog is going to be a little pudgy as well.
Sometimes, but it's not always. Sometimes you see a fit dog and a not so fit person, or the other way around.
but it's very, very important. Now, you take a look at a puppy. He's always jumping around. He's always gnawing on things and running around and just going crazy. But as a dog gets older, I would imagine it requires more and more motivation to get out and do that exercise.
It does. And we really have to facilitate that, for our pets. A lot of people just put them out in the backyard thinking that that's enough exercise. But they might, if they're puppies, they're probably running around a whole lot. Bigger dogs are probably sniffing a little bit, walking around a little bit, but then they want to come back inside, or they're going to lay down under a tree and take a nap.
Yeah, so you can't really, the dogs really won't exercise enough on their own.
Typically not.
Yeah, especially as they get a little older. Well, what kind of exercise is good? How should I exercise with my dog?
Well, that's an excellent question. And I think the traditional walking your dog is a great way both for the people and the dog to get lots of exercise. Just like with any exercise program for people with our dogs, we don't want to start off too crazy. We want to start off, with small baby steps, get used to those activities, and gradually increase our length. But walking your dog around the neighborhood, around one of our wonderful Pinellas County parks, is probably the best low-impact activity and is good for dogs of any age, from a little puppy to learn leash manners to an old dog with arthritis.
And I know dogs, because they're outside, because they're in a new environment, they do tend to get excited, and they tend to browse around, and they tend to be pretty active, even though they're on the other end of a leash. What about throwing balls and chasing after frisbees? Is that good for them?
That's great, especially if you have a dog that's very motivated, hopefully one that brings back the ball or frisbee, because we know some of our canine friends missed that day of dog school. But definitely that can be a great way to get some high-impact energy out and get a lot of good exercise that way.
Now, is too much exercise too much? I would imagine, just like anything else in life, if you overdo it, there's going to be some detrimental effects in overdoing the exercise routine. So that works with dogs as well.
Oh, yeah. And what we can find is if we have a pet that's not physically fit enough for the exercise, that can overly stress the heart and lungs. So if your pet is panting excessively, looking weak or anything like that, we need to stop, and we've overdone it. The other thing we can see, too, is if we have too much high-impact activity before the pet's been properly conditioned and built up muscle and ligaments in the joints, that can make them more prone to muscle strain or sprain, just like in us. If we haven't exercised for a while and we go out and we overdo it and run 10 miles, we're probably going to be pretty sore and hurting the next day.
So maybe if I have a sedentary dog, it might be a good idea to take him to the vet for a quick checkup before I take him outside.
That's always a great idea. Just like with us, make sure everything looks like it's working well, and then start out based on your vet's recommendations with something small, kind of see where your pet's fitness level is, and then gradually go up from there.
What about extreme exercise? And this is kind of a pet peeve of mine. I'll see people on a bicycle walking a dog on a leash. You know, they're riding the bicycle and the dog's trotting along behind them. Is that extreme? Is that too much?
Well, again, that's up to the individual pet. We have some of our working and sporting breed dogs that can run for miles and miles, and it's a great way to exercise them. But then we also have a lot of pets that aren't in very good shape or are overweight or have other health issues that would be a bad idea for. So I think as long as the dog is able to keep up and isn't having any difficulty breathing, I think that can be a great way, especially for some of our really, really high energy dogs, to get some of that activity out. Just like running with your dog. If you have a dog and you're fit enough to run and your dog is fit enough to run with you, that can be a great way, but really dependent on the individual dog.
What are some of the breeds that might be more energetic than others?
Well, definitely we see all of our terrier breeds are very, very high energy. Those are all working breeds. Also some of our sporting breeds, our hounds, dogs like Weimaraners and Vizslas and Labradors. All of these are working dogs that tend to have a pretty high energy level. And so getting that energy out really helps them to be healthier and also helps them to be better pets so they don't get frustrated and mischievous at home.
And, of course, out in the Yukon, Huskies pull sleds all day, so they're used to that kind of work. And now you mentioned not getting enough exercise, that the dog can be fidgety, start being destructive, and I wanted to talk to you about that. If the dog doesn't get enough exercise, how will his behavior change? Will he get bored, and will his behavior change in the way that he's trying to output some of this exercise any way he can?
Well, we definitely can see that, and some dogs are just very, very sedentary and just lay around on the couch all day. But for our dogs that are higher energy and our working breeds, not having an outlet for that activity results in misbehavior, and so those dogs can chew up things like your shoes or your furniture. They can be destructive. They can dig to try and get out of the yard. They can be more needy of your time than normally they would be. All of those kind of things, and we see a lot of that with children too. Children that don't get enough exercise, don't focus as well, don't learn as well. We see the same thing with dogs. If they're just too keyed up and too hyper and don't have a good outlet for that energy, really see some negative behaviors that make them more difficult to live with.
So maybe if your dog's misbehaving, just take him out in the backyard and throw the Frisbee around a little bit.
That is the number one thing. We see so many animals in animal services and also when I was in practice that have behavioral issues, and the number one best treatment for all of that is just more exercise.
Wow.
Because the majority of those dogs just aren't getting enough exercise to let out that extra energy. And it's amazing with changing nothing else, and although some of those animals do need more intensive training and things like that, but if you do nothing else, just increasing their exercise and energy level and getting that energy out that way can do wonders for your pet.
That's great. So they'll sleep better, I would imagine.
Oh, yes.
Better health all the way around.
It's a really
better
great
disposition.
thing.
Yeah, so get out in the backyard, get out in the park. How about swimming? Is that a good exercise for dogs?
Swimming's wonderful, just like for people. It's a great way to get a lot of aerobic activity with really minimal impact. And so really wonderful option for older pets, especially those with arthritis, especially bigger dogs with hip and knee arthritis or elbow arthritis can be a really, really great way to get exercise. And there are some veterinarians in the county that actually have underwater treadmills that they can use to help your dog get exercise that way, especially if they're recovering from an injury. So that's great. Make sure your dog knows how to swim. Not all dogs know how to swim.
And I thought that was instinctive, truly.
And it is for many, but some of them don't know. So before throwing your dog in the middle of the pool, maybe, give them a little intro and make sure they can handle that.
Well, of course, I was going to suggest taking the dog down to Fort DeSoto Park. They have a wonderful dog park right there on the water,
it's
a water
wonderful.
dog park. And the dogs, a lot of the municipal beaches perhaps don't allow the dogs to be on the beach, and you have to check with your municipality before you do that. But certainly, Pinellas County's Fort DeSoto Park is the place to take your pet. He can frolic in the waves,
it's
unfettered. He can go crazy all afternoon and have the time of his life.
And that's a great way for dogs to get some activity out if they're in good health and they socialize well with other dogs. Going and playing with dog friends, either with your neighbor's dogs in their backyard or indoors or at the dog parks can be great. One of my favorite dog exercise things is doga, which is yoga you can do with your dog that's offered by the SPCA at Tampa Bay. And if you can go to their website for more information, but that's very, very popular to do yoga with your dog. Now I have trouble doing yoga by myself.
Yeah, now, tell me more about that. Doing yoga with a dog. Tell me more. Are there videos that you both watch, or tell me more about this?
No, it's actually a class where they all show up with their dogs. Yep, and kind of do the calming, relaxation, stretching techniques all together. And so very, very popular and a good way, a nice low impact way to build strength and relaxation and do something together with your dog, which is always good.
I have this vision in my mind of all these people with all these different kinds of dogs on all these mats in this one room. And they're all oming, They're all trying to find inner peace together. And I don't know. Everybody has a gimmick, I guess. But you're telling me that it really, really does work.
Yeah, it's an extremely popular program, and we know the benefits of yoga for people, and there's no reason to think that wouldn't be great for dogs, too.
So get off the couch, get your dog off the dog bed. Mm-hmm. For those of us that need a life coach, just turn to the dogs. They'll help us.
Yes.
They'll help us improve our lives. All right, Dr. Caroline, thank you very much.
Thanks, Len.
Well, I'd like to thank my guest on this segment of For the Love of Animals, Dr. Caroline, Director of Veterinary Services for Pinellas County Animal Services. Remember, if you have a question for Dr. Caroline, simply email it to us at animals@pinellascounty.org, and we'll have the answer for you on an upcoming edition of For the Love of Animals. Well, coming up after the break, we'll find out more information about the pets we love and some of the important programs provided by Pinellas County Animal Services. Stay with us. Well, welcome back to For the Love of Animals. I'm Len Szynski from the Pinellas County Communications Department. Volunteers are important to animal services, to both the staff and the animals, as people from the community give their time to perform some of the everyday tasks that are so important in the care and treatment of animals. And with me today is one volunteer that the cats and dogs at Animal Services are very happy to see when she arrives at the kennel. She is Tiffany Oliver, and she's a dog walker. Tiffany, hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Welcome to the program, first of all.
Thank you.
Tiffany, I understand you have been at Pinellas County Animal Services forever. How long have you been there?
2 years now.
Oh, well, all right, 2 years. Well, it's not quite forever, but it's still a good length of time. I understand you come by pretty much on a daily basis, do you not?
I do. I work right down the road, so I take my lunch break, actually, and go walk the dogs.
So 2 years is a lot of visits, a lot of dog walking. What does a dog walker do? What are your responsibilities there?
Basically, we walk the dogs, we exercise them, we interact with them and socialize them. Just get them out their kennels, pretty much. They don't get walked unless we're there.
Now, is this fun for you? I would imagine you very much enjoy.
I do. It's a lot of fun. Lots of fun.
Now, dog walking, do you play with the animals? Do you play fetch? Do you toss the rubber ball? What else do you do to keep the dogs?
Yeah, basically we do all of that. We walk them around the shelter, and then we do have play yards available for us. So we take them into play yards where there's tennis balls and toys. Some like to play, some just like to cuddle, get in your lap and cuddle.
Really? Okay.
So it just depends. But yeah, we do all of that.
Do you interface with a lot of dogs on a daily basis? I know there are a lot of dogs in that kennel.
Yes, we do. I mean, it depends. In my lunch break, I usually can get out 3 or 4, depending on the time.
And how do you determine which ones get to go out with you?
Well, we kind of, if they're house trained, we do notice if some are house trained, we try to get those out first.
Okay.
And then their energy levels. We have a system that we level them a certain way. So the ones with the highest energy level, we try and get out first. And then we just kind of go down the line.
I can imagine that some of those dogs really need to get out for a little while.
Yes, especially the ones that are house trained.
And they're certainly happy to see you. Do you have your favorites? Do they recognize you when you come in?
They do recognize you, especially the ones that have been with us for a little bit. You walk past their kennel and they start crying, and they're just so happy to see you.
Tiffany, pick me.
Yeah, pretty much. Please, am I next?
Are these dogs pretty well behaved as a rule? Now, Tyson just told us in an earlier segment that some of these dogs are a bit traumatized by being at the kennel. There are a lot of dogs, a lot of different people, a lot of strange people. So when you get a hold of them, are they okay? Are they well behaved, or do you have some behavioral problems that you have to correct?
Most of them are okay. I mean, unfortunately, they're there for a reason. They haven't been trained well. But most of them know some commands: sit and down and shake. But mostly they're very well behaved. Some have high energy, but once you get them out, they calm down. Some do come in there a little scared, but we take our time with those. And we just tell all the volunteers, take your time with this one. You know, it's shy. You may have to sit in a kennel with them to get them out. But eventually, it's really interesting because the ones that are shy, the more time you spend with them, they get better. So it just depends on, I think Tyson had mentioned earlier, it just depends just like a person. Some adjust better than others. Some quickly, some it doesn't affect at all. So it just depends.
So when it's time to go back into the kennel, they'll go back willingly?
Yeah,
or?
most of them go back willingly. Every now and then we get one we have to pick up and put in. But
Yeah,
most of them
sure.
go right in. Plus treats help.
Oh, okay. Well, an animal will follow his nose to
Yes.
where those treats are. Absolutely. Now, how important is this kind of activity to the animals at Pinellas County Animal Services? Obviously, these animals are all, hopefully, are slated to be adopted.
Right.
You know, so they have a lot of energy built up, as you say. So how important is discharging this energy? How important is that for the whole adoption process?
It's very important because when a adopter comes to see the animal, whether it be in a kennel or we do a meet and greet outside, we want them to be as calm as possible. So the more they get out, the calmer they are. A lot of people don't realize that, you know, they may be in their kennels for quite a bit of time because they only get out when the volunteers are there. So they have to realize that sometimes it takes a little bit for them to calm down. But we just exercise them and take them out as much as possible to get there.
Now, do you told me that a lot of cats at Animal Services, too.
Oh, yes.
And you said you don't really interface with the cats, but people do.
Yeah, yeah, we do have volunteers. Some do dogs and cats. Some just do dogs or some just do cats. I do help out. We do PetSmart. A lot of our PetSmarts in the areas take our cats, so I'll help transport them there, things like that.
And I wanted to talk to you about that because I know it says here that you are involved in adoptions to a great degree.
Yes.
And the partnership that we have with PetSmart is so very, very important
It
on the
is.
weekends, taking Animal Services dogs out to PetSmart.
Yes.
A lot of pet lovers there at PetSmart, boy. And you get a chance to showcase these dogs to a
Yes.
lot of new people as they come in the store. So how do those promotions work for y'all?
Oh, they're wonderful. We do a lot of events at the PetSmart Largo Mall. We're there every fourth Saturday of the month. And it's wonderful. I can adopt 8 dogs sometimes, you know, depending, because they
Really?
get pretty busy, yes.
How long are you out there? How many hours a day are you
We're
out there?
usually there. We get there about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and we're usually there till about 2.
Okay, so that's a goodly opportunity.
It's prime time afternoon hours and everything. So we get people who come in to buy dog food for their dog, and they say, "Oh my gosh, look at this one." They go home, get their dog to do a meet and greet, and there you go.
Is there kind of a pattern if somebody already has a dog that they'll adopt another dog? Do people think that way?
Yeah, they do. We have a lot of people who think their dog needs a playmate,
Mm-hmm.
or their dog's getting a little older, so they want another companion, you know, just in case. So you'd be surprised how many people come into PetSmart not looking to adopt, then they go home with a dog.
Well, that's great. No, that's great for us because I know PetSmart. They have a lot of great people. You know, they have a lot of dog training classes
Yes.
there and whatnot. And it's a great place. Even if you don't want to buy something, if you don't need to buy something, it's a good place to come visit
Just
with your
come
dog.
visit.
You can
Yeah.
bring your dog.
You can bring your dog
It's
there.
a wonderful animal world for
It
animals.
is. It is.
It is indeed. Now, it says here, Tiffany, that you teach the SAVE class at Animal Services. What is that?
Yes, I'm actually what they're called lead volunteer because I've been there for so long, and we have some other lead volunteers. And what we do, it's a class that teaches the new volunteers coming on how to get a dog out of a kennel, where to walk them, how to interact with them, things of that nature, the shelter rules, hours, things like that for the
Now,
new volunteers.
I know, we really rely on our volunteers at Animal Services. They are so important to the staff and to the animals that we've been discussing here. How many volunteers do you recruit on a regular basis?
Well, it just depends. I think the orientation we had that just passed, I think they had like 20 or so people in that class.
Okay.
So
So a lot of people are interested in doing this.
Yeah, and it's not just dog walkers. It's orientation for all volunteers, whether they be doing animal control, animal assistant, things of that nature, administration.
So you're a dog walker, and that's
yes.
obvious what it is, but there
Yes.
are a lot of other jobs. Some of them don't even interface with animals too much. You
Correct.
mentioned
Some just want to do
They
administration.
want to do paperwork.
Right.
And if they're good with computers or something like that, there's an opportunity for them at Animal Services
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
If somebody here's the question that I wanted to ask. If I'm a new volunteer for Animal Services, what's the one thing, now in all your experience dealing with volunteers, dealing with the dogs and cats, what's the one thing that I should remember as a volunteer on my first day on the job? Put you on the spot a little
I
bit
know,
here.
just on the spot, the number one thing, it's fun.
It's fun.
Enjoy
all right.
yourself.
Sure. Have fun
Have
with
fun. A lot of people can't handle when they walk into a shelter. They think they can't handle it. But just have fun. Just know that you're helping that dog or that cat. You're socializing with them. You're getting them out. You're making them better so they can be adopted. So basically, just have fun.
And I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah, it is.
Once again, the goal of Animal Services, the primary objective is to get those dogs and cats into new homes.
Yes.
A healthier animal, a better behaved animal,
Yes.
Healthier psychologically as well as medically, goes a long way toward making them desirable.
Right, it does.
And hopefully, they'll make a good impression on people coming to visit and go
Yes.
home with somebody to a new
Exactly.
forever home. So how did you, now, do you have dogs of your own at home?
I do.
How many dogs do you have?
I have 2.
Looking for a third one, perhaps?
Oh, if my association allowed it, I'd already have 1.
Well, because that's so difficult. People that are around animal services, and you bond with these animals,
Yes.
you bond with these dogs.
You become very attached very quickly.
But you have to go home and leave them there. Do you ever get tempted just to adopt everybody?
Oh, it is. You hate to leave them, but you realize that what you're doing in the long run is good for them. And especially when I first started, it was harder for me, but I learned that, I'm doing this. It's because they can get adopted. So in the long run, it's a good thing. And I can go home and love on my kids.
And we are talking to Tiffany Oliver, volunteer and lead volunteer, actually, for Pinellas County Animal Services. Now, Tiffany, how did you get involved 2 years ago? What made you decide to volunteer yourself?
We have a Facebook page. It's Pinellas County Animal Services on Facebook, and I followed it, and they were looking for dog walkers. So, like I said, I work 5 minutes away, and I wanted something to get me out the office. So I just said, let me go try it, and I went and tried it, and I liked it.
And now 2 years later, every single lunchtime, you're out there.
I
walking
am.
animals.
It gets me out the office. If I'm having a bad day, I go see the dogs, and they just put a smile on my face. It's another thing with volunteering. It's a stress relief.
Oh, yeah.
It really is. Just sitting there playing or petting on a dog, loving. It's a big stress relief.
So, this part of the program, we do talk to volunteers and we do spotlight volunteers because we're hoping that people are listening maybe get a little inspired themselves and want to come out and give up their time.
We need volunteers. We really do need dog walkers. Like I said, they only get out if we're there to take them out. So it's a great thing to do.
And you told me earlier that it is such a rewarding experience.
It is.
To interface with
It's
these
actually the
dogs.
best decision I've ever made to do.
Oh, okay.
I enjoy it
No
that
regrets
much.
then.
No
You're
regrets
sign
at
up for
all.
another 2 years.
I will.
You're going to be there.
As long as they keep me, I'm there.
Oh, Tiffany, that's great. Well, thank you very much for being on the program.
Thank you.
Appreciate it so much. Well, I want to thank my guest this time around, Tiffany Oliver, volunteer at Pinellas County Animal Services. And Tiffany, you are truly doing important work for our community, and you are indeed an asset to the Pinellas County organization. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
If anyone in our broadcast audience is interested in volunteering their time at Pinellas County Animal Services, complete information is on the Pinellas County Animal Services website. Just go to pinellascounty.org/animal services, one word. Just scroll down and hit volunteer, or just send us an email and we'll tell you all about it. That email address is animals@pinellascounty.org. Well, coming up after the break, we go to the mailbag to answer some questions about what to do if your neighborhood has too many stray cats when we come back. Well, we're back. Welcome back to For the Love of Animals, a presentation of Pinellas County Animal Services and Inspiration 1110 AM. I'm your host, Len Szynski, and joining me right now is John Hohenstern, Senior Animal Control Officer at Pinellas County Animal Services. John, how are you?
Very good, Len. How are you doing this morning?
Welcome to the program again.
Thank you.
You are with me every
Good to be
single
here.
week here,
Oh, it's nice to be
talking
here.
about these animal problems, and it's great to be able to share this information with our audience. And, John, I went to the mailbag before you came in, and I've got some emails here for you regarding feral cats.
Okay.
So here's one from John. It says here in Pinellas somewhere, in St. Petersburg, I think. He says, I live in historic Kenwood, and each day I leave work or come home, I see cats all over my neighborhood. The cats are getting so out of control that I am getting attacked by fleas as I sit on my patio. This is a health and safety issue at this point. Please do something. Here's another email from James from Largo. Among other dangers associated with these feral cats, they are becoming a nuisance, approaching residents for food, hiding under vehicles, sitting on top of vehicles, not to mention the screeching in the late evening or morning hours. Tonya from Tarpon from Largo says, my neighbors have at least 4 outside cats and too many to count inside. The ones outside are getting on our car, defecating in our yard, chasing and killing blue jays on my property. My car has cat hair and paw prints all over it. Andrea from St. Petersburg says, I am contacting you because there is a woman who feeds all the stray cats in the neighborhood. Normally, I would not care, but there are about 50 strays there. They are completely flea-infesting the whole neighborhood. John, my goodness, you should leave the show right now and go out to these neighborhoods.
Yeah, well,
how big of a problem is this with feral cats in these neighborhoods?
You know, in some neighborhoods it can get really bad because, well, like the last complaint there that someone's feeding all the stray cats,
right? Yeah,
and they're giving the cats a reason to hang out in the neighborhood, and they think they're doing the cats a favor, but they're really not, because people complain because if you've got a really nice yard, you don't want a bunch of cats coming around and using it as their own private litter box.
Well, and I was going to ask you about the feeding stray cats, because people do that. They're big-hearted. They see an animal that looks hungry, and all these cats look hungry.
Right.
Plus the birds, plus the squirrels, plus everything else out there. But we've got a lot of raccoons and opossums and rats in these neighborhoods, and boy, a bowl of cat food left outside looks pretty good to all of those creatures.
Yeah, to all of them, and it's actually against the county ordinance to place food or garbage out where it will attract all these animals.
So that's good information.
A lot of people don't know that. And, I mean, a lot of people don't even know there's a leash law for cats in Pinellas County. And a lot of times, from these emails, if we go out and contact the cat owners or, the people that are feeding the stray cats, and we just tell them, look, there's a leash law for cats. If you want these cats to be yours, you need to keep them inside, get them licensed and vaccinated, and they'll be yours. But, you don't know what they do, the other 23 hours of the day,
yeah, sure.
Running around the neighborhood, killing the birds,
yeah.
Using everyone's yard as a litter box.
Now, some of these cats really don't belong to anybody.
No, that's
so
true.
They're wild cats, basically.
They're strays, yeah. That
and
ferals.
What's the reason for all of these cats out there?
Well, we kind of live in a really nice environment here in Florida. That's why we all moved here, because the weather's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And, a female cat can go into, season 3 times a year. Ooh. And have 3 litters. And, if there's a viable food source, a good-hearted person that's going to, feed them, they'll hang out. And
so you've got quite a geometric progression going there.
Yeah.
Spaying and neutering your animals is quite the watchwords.
Absolutely, but these, if they're feral cats that can't even be touched, which in a lot of cases is the case with this.
Now, you mentioned this briefly, and I wanted to go into a little bit more. Putting out the cat, taking in the dog and putting out the cat is a little bit more traditional, but you just told me that it's really never a good idea to let your pet cat roam around outdoors.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Does it make a difference
not.
if it's clawed or declawed? Or?
Well, I mean, if it's declawed, you shouldn't let it out, because, if something does happen, how is it ever going to defend itself? But like I said, there is a leash law for cats, and, here in Pinellas County, we have coyotes.
Okay.
And coyotes like stray outside cats. They're a food source for them. And, if you let your cat out and you don't know, he could become a meal for a coyote.
A food source? That seems pretty ominous.
Well, we have alligators, rattlesnakes, and coyotes in Pinellas County.
You're absolutely right. The outside is a very dangerous place for somebody's cat, declawed or not. You mentioned just a few of the hazards that are out there. And I know, as in our communications department, we do a lot of public information on behalf of animal services, and coyotes are everywhere in Pinellas County.
Oh, absolutely.
And some people don't get the message until a favorite cat goes missing.
Right, yeah, and that is true. They my cat's gone missing. I don't know where, what's happened, or sometimes, heaven forbid, they just find a piece of their cat that's left over in their yard,
and that happens,
and that does
as
happen.
Grisly as that is,
as it is, it does happen, and they go, well, I never realized we had coyotes. And yes, we've got coyotes.
We're talking to John Hohenstern, Senior Animal Control Officer with Pinellas County Animal Services. Now, John, can I kind of trap cats on my own? Can I try to kind of wrestle the bull by the horns my own way by trapping some of these feral cats on my own?
Yes, you absolutely can. We will, we do provide traps to the public currently or whatever. There really isn't a charge. We do request a $50 security deposit that you get back when we get our trap back. But if it's a stray nuisance cat, you're within your rights to set up a trap on your property, and if the cat is at large on your property and goes into the trap, you give us a call, we'll come and pick them up.
Oh my goodness, that's great. Now, obviously, some of these cats may be people's cats. If a cat has a microchip or a license, you're going to reunite the cat with the owner, right?
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes the person that traps the cat will know who owns it, and they'll say, "Well, the cat belongs to the people two doors down," and we'll go and knock on their door and ask them if they know where their cat is.
And I would imagine a lot of these stray cats are from the neighborhood. They don't roam too wide, do they?
Well, usually not. Not if they're comfortable in their
Sure.
in the neighborhood there, and they've got an active food source.
But if in the absence of any sort of an identification, the cat goes back to animal services and
and strays without any kind of identification, a microchip, a license, we only hold for 4 days, and then they become the property of the county.
Okay.
And then whether the animal goes up for adoption or not depends on its temperament and its health.
That's another story to be told at another time.
Yes.
What about dogs? From judging by the emails that I'm getting here, there are two kinds of stray dogs. One is the cute little puppy that just is kind of wandering around the neighborhood
Took
on
itself
its
for a
own,
walk, yeah.
and just can't find its way back. And the other is perhaps a more menacing dog. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit. If I'm out walking my dog and here comes a stray dog, a stray pit bull or any kind of a breed really, bounding toward my dog on the leash, what should I do in defense of myself and my dog?
Well, if you don't know the dog, it's a strange dog, and and you have to look at the dog and how it is, is it coming at you like purposefully, or is it playful? Is it stopping and doing that thing that the dogs do? Or sometimes just yelling at the dog, telling him to go home, is before he even gets to you. Usually in a dog situation like this, the menacing dog is usually just after the other dog.
Right.
So try to get something between him and your dog.
Maybe even pick up the dog
and turn your back to him. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if it's a dog that's just lost and looking for its owner, do I give you all a call? Will you come out and take the dog? Do I bring the dog in? What do I do with this dog?
Oh, absolutely. Well, if you could contain it somehow, put a leash on it, or put it inside a fenced-in yard, you give us a call and we will come and we'll pick it up. Confined stray animals, have a priority with us.
And I cannot underscore the importance of licensing your pet, be it a dog or a cat, and microchips.
Absolutely, and make sure that all your information is up to date once you do get a license and a microchip, because that's something that is so sad when we find an animal with a microchip, but we find out that the people have never registered it, and it still comes back to the pet store or the breeder. It's.
Okay, John, we're going to play Stump the Animal Control Officer. Now, here's our surprise email that I told you about. David from Indian Rock Speech wants to know how many dogs are allowed to live in a single residence in Pinellas County. Sounds like the neighbor has too many dogs to David's liking. Right. But what's the law? What's the ordinance say?
There is no ordinance about how many animals, dogs or cats, a person can own, as long as they're all properly licensed and vaccinated, and they don't become a public nuisance.
All right.
If they've got 40 dogs in a big old mansion, and there's plenty of room for them, and they're being well taken care of, but they bark incessantly, then there's a problem there. They're creating a public nuisance. Or if they foul the air by odor, as long as everything's the way it's supposed to be, you can own as many dogs or as cats as you want. There is no county ordinance. I know there are some cities that do restrict the number of dogs and cats you can have, but that's the city ordinance.
And of course, we tend to speak for Pinellas County, so if you do live in a municipality, you should check with your local city hall to find out what the ordinances are. Well, okay, that brings us to the end of our program. I want to thank our guest this time around, John Hohenstern, Senior Animal Control Officer with Pinellas County Animal Services. You have been listening to For the Love of Animals, presented by Pinellas County Animal Services and Inspiration 1110 a.m. Be sure to be with us next Saturday, 11 a.m. till noon, right here on Inspiration 1110 a.m. for another episode of For the Love of Animals. And if you have any questions or comments on anything we've talked about on the program, just send us an email at animals@pinellascounty.org or give us a call at area code 727-582-2600. For more information on Pinellas County Animal Services, including photos of the dogs and cats up for adoption this week, go to our website, pinellascounty.org/animal services, one word. Once again, thanks for listening. I'm Len Szynski with the Pinellas County Communications Department. Join us next time for The Love of Animals.